Hello, everyone. Welcome to Day 3 of the European Research Days 2024 Oceania, a flagship event of EURAXESS Australia and New Zealand, organized in collaboration with the Delegation of the European Union to Australia, New Zealand, and Pacific. If you have joined us yesterday or day before yesterday, we had an excellent start to the event, and thank you for joining us from different parts of the globe. We have had excellent interactions with all of you, with some very pertinent questions coming in throughout these sessions, so well done on that. As you are aware, the European Research Day focuses on providing the research community with information and support for scientific exchange and collaboration with Europe. So these 5 days, each day is addressing a specific theme and is intended for a certain target audience. And as you are aware, today's theme is Horizon Europe and Association. And we have an amazing speaker lineup for today. I'll introduce them as we move ahead with our agenda. A big thanks to all our speakers for joining us from different parts of the globe. Of course, there are speakers joining from Europe as well. It's very early there, so thank you once again for taking out time and being available. And I'm Nishan Sanjile. I'm the Regional Coordinator for Australia and New Zealand at EURAXESS Worldwide. EURAXESS is an initiative of the European Commission that addresses barriers to the mobility of researchers and enhances scientific collaboration between Europe and the rest of the world. There are a few things that we concretely do. We provide information about European research, career opportunities, international collaboration, and networking possibilities. As I always like to say, since all of you are watching this on your laptop or your phone, I'll encourage you to type EURAXESS Australia and New Zealand, maybe on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, whichever you prefer. You can as well share about this event with the handle #ERDOceania. Now, moving on to today's session, just to give you the running order, we'll begin with an intervention on Association to Horizon Europe, the current status and significance. This will be followed by a much anticipated panel on Association of third countries to Horizon Europe. And then, of course, we will look into New Zealand, a Horizon Europe success story, where we will learn about the status of New Zealand's Horizon Europe participation, New Zealand's NCP structure, and also here a successful Horizon Europe project called Minority Report. Since we have a very dense speaker lineup, I'll encourage all of you to please ask your questions while our speakers are speaking so that we can come back and take your questions at the end of each intervention. Please bear in mind that you should be using the Q&A function, not the chat function, so that it's easier to follow your questions. I think without further ado, please allow me to pass the platform to Mr. Bojan Grlas, who is the Deputy Head of Unit for International Cooperation, Asia, Pacific, Africa, and the Middle East from the Directorate-General for Research and Innovation at European Commission. And Bojan will explain to us about Association to Horizon Europe, its current status and significance. I'll pass on to you, Bojan, and I'll start sharing the screen so that you can.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I am Bojan Grlas. I'm the Deputy Head of Unit in one of the two international units in the Directorate-General RTD here in the European Commission in Brussels. It is my pleasure to join you in this webinar, and I will be giving a short presentation, more like an introduction about the international cooperation and with a particular focus on association as we see it from the European Commission. So this will include elements on the current status and significance. If we could move to the next slide, thank you. Horizon Europe, the European Union Central Program on Research and Innovation, is open to the world, as we believe that the best knowledge and greatest ideas come from collaboration. International cooperation is an important tool to tackle global societal challenges, bring together the world's talent, expertise, and resources, as well as enhance the supply and demand of innovative solutions. As regards association, the means to achieve greater international cooperation and to achieve greater international cooperation, the program includes the possibility to establish special relations between the EU and partner countries in the form of association. With the Horizon Europe, which started in 2021, As a difference compared to previous programs, Horizon Europe has expanded the possibility to associate to the program beyond its neighborhood, which has traditionally been the case. So before Horizon Europe, the associated countries were those close to the European Union, geographically speaking. But since the beginning of Horizon Europe, this is possible also with the countries at the global level. This opportunity is for third countries with a good capacity in science, technology, and innovation that share fundamental values with the EU. Why is, if you could maybe go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Why is international cooperation important? This is, as I mentioned already, a key. It is actually a precondition to be able to solve some of the burning challenges that we face at the global level, including societal challenges. But we can, of course, think also about tackling challenges on biodiversity or climate change, among many, many others. It is about bringing together the world's best talents, expertise, and resources. We do know that in the programs and projects that include partners from several countries, the probability of a greater success and greater impact is higher. So basically, international cooperation is necessary, is a key for excellent science. And it's also about enhancing supply and demand of innovative solutions, of course. In terms of the way how we do this, the European Commission or the European Union has a number of tools that we use, including different agreements on science and technology, or tackling specific elements on research and innovation in the context of broader agreements on trade or others. But there is this specific element on which we focus today, which is the association. And as I mentioned already, the association to Horizon Europe is a possibility foreseen for those partner countries with good capacities in science, technology, and innovation. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here you can see the overview of the countries already associated to Horizon Europe or those in negotiation. We expect this to be soon 20, so to have 20 associated countries covering 5 continents. And on top of the countries that have already concluded the negotiations and which are already participating in the program as associated countries, we have additional ongoing negotiations with Switzerland, where I can actually announce that we expect this to be concluded very soon. We just had some of the last meetings, last negotiation sessions, and so we expect this to be implemented very soon. And there are also negotiations ongoing with Egypt and Japan, as well as the exploratory talks with Singapore. Next slide, please. By associating to Horizon Europe, the countries are welcome into a special group of countries associated to Horizon Europe. They are part of a designated list that provides greater access to Horizon Europe's resources, benefits, and opportunities. Some of the first countries that have joined or have associated the Horizon Europe, which were not from the neighborhood, so immediate geographic vicinity of the EU, were Canada and New Zealand. This illustrates a truly global reach of the program, and means that, for example, New Zealand is able to seek deeper cooperation not only with partners in the EU, but also from other associated countries. Association is the closest form of cooperation under Horizon Europe and allows entities of associated countries to participate in the program on similar terms as entities from the EU countries. This means that the participants may receive funding from Horizon Europe, and it also makes it easier to work in joint programs and projects and fund them. Our ambition from the EU side keeps growing. As I mentioned, we are currently in negotiations with a number of countries, now expecting to actually start implementing with Switzerland very soon, but also continuing negotiations with Japan, Egypt, and others. Since Horizon Europe is open to the world, entities from associated countries may already participate in projects funded under the program as associated partners. They may, however, not sign the grant agreement with the EU or receive funding. So what changed, for example, with the associations of New Zealand in July 2023? What are the benefits of association? In short, New Zealand entities can enjoy the same rights and obligations as entities from an EU member state. This means that they may receive funding under the program and enjoy other rights enshrined in the grant agreement. They may also now lead and coordinate their own projects under the program. Moreover, New Zealand entities have access to more calls under Pillar 2 than previously. It also allows the government of New Zealand to assign representatives as observers under the Horizon Europe Programme Committee. Next slide, please. Now, with a specific focus on New Zealand on this slide, what are the key points on New Zealand's association to Horizon Europe? The main advantages and benefits, of course, are about the fact that this is the closest form of cooperation with non-EU countries, which now allows entities from New Zealand to fully participate in the EU's research and innovation initiatives under the same conditions as those from EU member states. A bit of historical context. This marks the New Zealand Association marked the first association of a highly industrialized country outside of Europe to Horizon Europe, reflecting a new approach to international cooperation in research and innovation. This is also a great experience in terms of showing also to other close partner countries of the EU what this means and what opportunities it represents. And as I mentioned, there are a number of other negotiations ongoing and other countries that have joined in the meantime. So New Zealand became associated with Pillar 2 of Horizon Europe on July 9th in 2023. Of course, Horizon Europe as the EU's primary research and innovation program. Following the conclusions of negotiations in December 2022, the association agreement was signed with New Zealand researchers gaining access to funding opportunities from February 2023 under transitional arrangements. The scope of participation, this association allows New Zealand researchers to participate in Pillar 2 with a focus on global challenges and industrial competitiveness. Specific areas of focus are 6 clusters. These include health, culture, creativity and industry, inclusive society, civil security for society, digital industry and space, as well as climate, energy and mobility, and then also food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment. Maybe we can go to the next slide. So I will continue. This is indeed the slide on the budget for clusters clusters and for GRC. So you can see here the exact numbers that we currently have. But maybe we go to the next slide also because we have limited time. On my last slide, I would like to emphasize that in this context, we believe that New Zealand's association with Horizon Europe can serve as a strategic gateway, enhancing also the integration of Pacific Islands researchers and entities in EU projects. By joining forces, we accelerate our collective potential, integrating New Zealand's unique strengths with European expertise and driving progress towards common goals in science, sustainability, and societal impact. It is our hope that New Zealand will play a crucial role in driving awareness and mobilizing the region's researchers to engage in these opportunities. Events like the one this week, and especially the session today, the European Research Days Oceania, and all the work done by EURAXESS Hub is essential in this context. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank the organizers for all the work, as we see this as very, very important and extremely useful in this region. We hope that the information provided at this event is useful for the researchers to join all the available opportunities, and as we need your valuable contributions. Together we can address shared challenges and foster a more inclusive and globally connected research community. I would maybe stop here if we still have a moment for a question or two. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Bojan. I think we really needed this overview so that we can start with the panel. But there are a few very important things that you had mentioned. Of course, one with Switzerland's finalization almost of the association, because there was a few questions yesterday on this. So it's good to know that things are almost getting there. In terms of FP7, FP8, 9, 10, how does association translate from one framework program to the another framework program?
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I believe that it is very important to stress that although, of course, after the Horizon Europe in a couple of years, so 27, 28, there will be a new program, which usually is valid for 7 years. And we might expect some changes in the way changes, meaning building on the lessons learned and making things even better. However, we shouldn't be expecting some major changes. As I mentioned, the international cooperation, including association as the central point for the EU, is a key element for all of our work on research and innovation. So we expect that the opportunities in terms of association and ensuring that international cooperation not just continues, but even strengthens in terms of ensuring scientific excellence, will actually get even further support. Of course, the work on the FP10, so on the new or the next framework program, is ongoing. So we are not in a position to comment or to speculate how the program will look like, but it will certainly take into account also the current and specific geopolitical situation, globally speaking. That means that, of course, on the one hand, the international cooperation, including association, remains a key point. But on the other hand, we will certainly be looking into also specific safeguards or other elements which are crucial in terms of economic and research security. But this is something that we also are keen doing in close cooperation with the partner countries in order to find the best solutions in terms of moving forward and ensuring that the right safeguards are in place while keeping the international cooperation very much open, since, as I mentioned, it is a key element for science excellence.
Sure, thank you. It's very clear the way it works. Thank you for clarifying on that. Just so that I can give you some background. So when we organized the Horizon Europe launch for Australia, New Zealand in August of 2021, it was the dream that someday Australia and New Zealand both will become associated to Horizon Europe. So of course, the New Zealand colleagues picked it up quite well. And at the end of 2021, there was a letter that was signed to express their intent to become associated. We have our colleagues at MB. So I think I'll take this opportunity to also extend my sincerest thanks to you and your team, Bojan, on the excellent negotiations, and our colleagues at MB, Mary Nehana, who will speak later on this benchmark sort of negotiation that happened so rapidly, so that New Zealand counterparts and researchers could as well start getting involved with Horizon Europe already from February of 2023, of course, with the transitional arrangement, and then finally into formal program since July of last year. I'll just ask one last question before I let you go, Bojan. How does Australia's relation with this happen at the moment? Because there are a lot of researchers from Australia who are interested to know at their end, because for them, I'd see there is a lot of interest, but just so that we are aware.
Thank you very much for asking about Australia. Actually, it's a great moment, and of course very relevant for the session today. What I can of course confirm is that Australia for the EU is one of the main partners in terms of research and innovation. Globally speaking, we have had contacts in the past with the colleagues from Australia in the context of a long-standing close relation in terms of an agreement also on science and technological cooperation since 1994. Also on the possibility to engage in the process to be associated to the Horizon Europe. That was in the last couple of years in a number of occasions. At some point in time, the decision was taken, or at least in the EU, we were informed by Australia that at that point in time, Australia would not continue moving towards association. However, from the EU side, two key elements to bear in mind in this context are that the cooperation, very close and intense cooperation with Australia on research and innovation, of course, is ongoing and keeps very much active. On the other hand, from the European Commission, we would be very much ready to engage in reconsidering possible talks on association in the future in a moment when maybe the colleagues from Australia would be ready to move in that direction. From our point of view, of course, we can only express hope that there will be a chance to maybe resume these talks in the future, as we would see that as a great opportunity. While, of course, on the other hand, also outside of the specific context of association, let's say the most important or tool that we have at our disposal in the context of Horizon Europe, we, of course, have plenty of others and continue excellent cooperation with Australia. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Bojan. I think that sums it up very well. And I'm sure that our researchers will keep an eye on the panel and then New Zealand's relation with Horizon Europe in these 1.5 years and try to see where they can find opportunities. It was also echoed when Signe spoke on the opening day of the European Research Day that we are looking forward to having Australia in the Horizon Europe family formally associated. But of course, it's something that is open from our end, and we look forward to discussing this. And thank you for your time, Bojan. I am aware that it's very early for you, so thank you for waking up and taking some questions already. It was a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much. I wish you a very successful rest of this session and also the event. I will try to stay connected for the rest, but at a certain moment I might need to disconnect. I hope to be able to stay until the rest. And once again, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for organizing this event, which from our point of view is extremely important and represents a great opportunity on which then to build further in the future even better and closer and more intense cooperation. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you very much once again, Bojan. I think that gives us a perfect segue to go into our panel, which is a very much anticipated panel on association of third countries to Horizon Europe. And who better to moderate this session than Ms. Diane Lacoste-Aurelier, who is the head of trade sections at the Delegation of European Union to New Zealand. I'll pass it on to you, Diane, so that you can start introducing the amazing panel that we have managed to bring in for today's discussion.
Yeah, thanks indeed, Nishant, and good evening here in the Pacific. Good morning in Europe. It's very much a pleasure to be here with you, and many thanks indeed for the opportunity. Very timely to hold this session today. We've heard a lot since the beginning of this week about the very critical role that research and innovation play, especially at the time of great challenges, but I would say also of formidable opportunities. We've also heard about the importance of partnerships based on shared values, based on common interests towards long-term benefits. Clearly today, I would say the theme of the day is opportunities, benefits, and Bojan, thanks again, set the scene with highlighting how association is a key avenue to leverage international cooperation. Great to hear that association is expanding, and the news about Switzerland negotiations progressing well is fantastic. Also good news in here in the Indo-Pacific region with South Korea, with Japan, with Singapore, with interest and negotiations progressing. And today we'll have the privilege to hear from representatives of 3 countries who have clearly embraced opportunities under Horizon Europe, namely New Zealand, Canada, and the United Kingdom. And we very much look forward to hearing about their experience. I would introduce our panelists as we discuss, and I'll start with you, Mary. Mary's mission is to represent New Zealand's science and innovation interests in Europe, and it's actually been very much a privilege for us in Wellington to have Mary work with us on Horizon Europe before she moves to Brussels very soon. So Mary, New Zealand was a pioneer as the first country to join Horizon Europe Pillar 2 outside the European neighborhood. After a bit more than 1 year of association, what would be your assessment?
Hi, Diane. Sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you
Yes.
well.
Oh, great. Okay, sorry. It's a bit glitchy at my end, but hopefully it will hold up. We are really proud of being the first country outside of the European neighborhood to associate, and the pioneering comment I think is really adept. That is definitely one way in which New Zealanders like to think of themselves, and we have some track record there across a range of things, including science and international science cooperation. I think there's one kind of there's a set of numbers that really sum up the difference that association has made. But I guess when we joined, we were really looking at the benefits to deepen our relationship with Europe and put New Zealand's research on the global stage. And we are seeing this bear out 18 months into the program. So in the 8 years prior to our association, we had 24 grants that were awarded to New Zealand participants in the previous iteration of Pillar 2. And in the 18 months since association, we already have 14 grants. So we're, well on our way within the program, and I think that just really shows the enthusiasm that New Zealand scientists have, but also the deep partnerships that were there already and have now blossomed through our association to the program.
Thank you, Mary. Very interesting to hear about this impetus. And we look forward to also hearing from Nayana a little bit later in the program, in our session today. And I'll now turn to Aslin. Aslin is Head of Innovation for Canada's mission to the European Union. Aslin, Canada joined Horizon Europe in July, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So where does Canada stand?
Well, the thing is that we've been participating in the Horizon Europe program since the very beginning, but not everybody was aware. So once we've got the association, then that gave the impetus for others to understand it better and to want to do more. So there's a lot of effort that's being put into increasing the awareness and understanding of the program, because it's not a simple program, we'll be honest. But the main thing is that to let the Canadian network know that there's a lot of resources and tools available, national contact points and so on, that could help them along the way. And in the meantime, I've been trying to do certain partnering events to share the opportunities, because for the Canadians that are aware of how Horizon works, sometimes they say, well, it's sometimes a challenge to find the partners. And so recently I did one on green tech calls, where I did it with 7 country partners, including the UK and France, and we had 580 people submit pitches to do the matchmaking. So since association, there's been a lot of interest, a lot of buzz, and many, many more queries than I would have thought possible, but it's great. People are interested, and we're doing every effort to do what we can to help more Canadians further increase their participation and success rate.
Thanks, Aislinn. And indeed, I would say in New Zealand as well, I mean, this awareness raising and matchmaking efforts are very much a key part of the first stage of association and the focus of a lot of initiatives. And I would say it's bearing fruit if Mary confirms. I'll now move to Eva. Eva is at the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology in the UK. She leads on the delivery of UK participation in Horizon Europe, and as well on the strategy to increase UK participation in the programme. So Eva, Horizon Europe is a positive story for the UK. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Diane. Indeed, it's great to be back in Horizon Europe, and I think we've all been really looking forward to actually being back. So it's lovely news and very much welcomed by the community. Obviously, we're in a slightly different situation than some of the other associated countries, because we kind of joined after many, many years from the very beginning of framework programs of being part of the EU. So it's a slightly different sort of basis on which obviously we're participating now. And there's a long way to go. We used to be one of the top performers in Horizon, and the 3 years of non-association has in many respects kind of lowered our appetite, or not appetite, but lowered our sort of participation levels. The appetite is there. I'm pleased to say that we have seen the community really embrace the opportunity now since the 1st of January when we associated. But we realize there's a long way to go in terms of making up for the lost time and embracing the opportunities that Horizon brings. You've mentioned, I think Aislinn mentioned some of the things that Canada is doing at the moment. We've got our own sort of range of opportunities and ways of encouraging collaboration as well. We've got a dedicated department or unit actually looking after boosted participation. My team works primarily on encouraging and boosting participation within Horizon. So we do have a range of opportunities in terms of incentivizing applications to Horizon. We call that the pump priming program. So essentially helping people meet the costs or leverage the costs of preparation of the proposals. As I think Mary mentioned, it's not to be underestimated how complex some of those programs are and the process is. So obviously that requires significant time. We also do quite a lot of domestic marketing and sort of event activities, but also working with international community to try and really embrace the opportunities to collaborate both within the EU, but also with globally with other associated countries and third countries.
Thanks a lot, Eva. And I would say the UK story and the rejoining of Horizon Europe is quite telling in terms of the value of the program, and also well noted your emphasis on the importance of support. Now, I'd like us to go maybe a little bit deeper. What opportunities and benefits does your country gain by being associated to Horizon Europe? And maybe to address that, we may have a bit of a different order. Aslin, would you start?
Sure. So with association, one is just bringing a lot more attention to the program. So with that, we get a lot more queries, but it also just basically opens the door more open, if you wish, to co-innovation. What's lovely is that I often hear from many of the European partners that they see Canada not just as a close strategic partner, like-minded with shared priorities, but that they see us as cousins. And it's like, yeah, we're all cousins, like, and we should work more together. I mean, it's lovely to have this venue for global challenges. With regards to the funding, for the Canadians that were interested prior to association, it was a bit of a struggle to find their own funding or find enough funding to be able to support their efforts. So the fact that now, if deemed eligible, they with the project call, then they would get the funds directly from the Commission, that they don't have to go chasing it after other sources. And with the added bonus to even have indirect costs of about 25% covered is something that's generally not available to the Canadian researchers for past projects. And what I tell Canadians as well is that to go after these calls in Horizon Europe, well, then it gives you the chance to expand your capabilities and then to connect with future partners, clients, and markets. So, you know, a Canadian could work with someone from New Zealand, with the UK and France to develop whatever. I mean, like the sky's the limit. And with association now, for the Canadians that have already had experience in the past, and some of them are really eager to lead on a certain call. For the inexperienced, though, I always tell them to just, you know, give it a go for at least one or two calls prior before trying to lead it on their own, just to lean on those who've already had the benefit of experience. So those are the main points. Thank you.
Thank you. The value of experience and the learning by doing, indeed. Eva?
Why wouldn't one join Horizon Europe? It's the largest global R&D program, so it opens all sorts of opportunities. As I said, for us, working with EU member states, but equally working with global partners in a structured way, where you've got pretty good intelligence in terms of what's up and coming, and you can plan accordingly in terms of sort of how you want to benefit from those opportunities. That's a huge attraction to the R&D community in the UK. Access to global expertise, global talent, global markets, and global collaborations. The collaboration element is really important. As Aslin mentioned, it's the bit that really keeps the R&D community going. You can't innovate and do research just, you know, in isolation, just by yourself. So that's a very important factor. And you know, the UK has traditionally kind of benefited and enjoyed, you know, a member status for a long time. So the sort of the approach to collaborative working is very much there, and it's great to be back. But above all of that, I would say the opportunity to contribute to solving some of the global problems, global challenges, that to much extent is one of the driving forces for our community. That's what we hear over and over again, that ability to be able to work with others to solve things, that solve challenges that we're all facing. That's really important. So yeah, it's great to be back.
Thank you, and I'm sure this dimension of collaborating more closely with the rest of the world is something that resonates particularly with New Zealand, right, Mary?
Absolutely. As a country of 5 million down in the bottom corner of the world, international collaboration is extremely important to us, and especially to our scientists and innovators. You don't solve those big global challenges on your own, and the association.
You're muted, Mary. And we lost the last 20 seconds.
We can't
Thank
hear
you. Sorry, my Zoom just completely crashed. Where was I? International collaboration, extremely important in solving global challenges, of course. And the benefits of association, I would echo what Aslan said, that association really raises the awareness of those opportunities. We did have a track record of some participation and actually institution to institution collaboration with Europe. But Horizon has really brought a new energy to it every time there's a new associated partner. So when Canada came on board, that brought a new energy and excitement to the opportunities available under Horizon. So that was so that's some of the benefits that we've seen. And then just one further one that hasn't been mentioned yet, as a small economy and small market, access to the excellent networks, but also the research infrastructure. So that's been really big for New Zealand researchers.
Thank you, Mary. And I've picked up some keywords from this conversation: access to global excellence, but also, and I would say likewise, amplifying domestic expertise and own experience as well, and of course the key value of collaboration. Now, what I'd like to hear from you is a story, because sometimes a story is worth a thousand words or a thousand images. Is there any inspiring story that you could share with us about your country's association? And maybe, Eva, we could start with you this time.
I have really been scratching my head, just trying to come up with a story or some kind of anecdote, I have to say, Diane. It's been difficult to come up with just one. I think there's been lots of instances for us where people have really sort of been pleased and have been communicating in an extremely positive way. The fact that they were really appreciated of the association to Horizon. I suppose the one sort of nice element that I would like to bring to light is how pleasantly we were surprised, and I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but we were really moved by the way we've been welcomed to Horizon. I do appreciate that's a slightly different experience to others who have not been sort of part of Horizon in the same way before, but it's been so lovely, actually, the way we have been welcomed by some of the EU member states in particular, how people have embraced the collaborations. We've got many examples of consortia that have really embraced sort of UK being back into the program. So that's been in many respects just really, really pleasing to see, and sort of reconfirms or reaffirms the reason why one would sort of go through that process and associate again. Also, I have to point out the way we've been working with the European Commission on the association process and the kind of collaborative spirit has been really, it's really to be commended. It's been great. It's been a real partnership to kind of make things work during the process, which is fairly complex, as you can imagine. So rather than just an anecdote, just a reflection. Sorry that I'm not meeting the brief 100%.
That's perfect. Thank you for that, Eva. And definitely united in diversity is a key motto in the European Union. So great to hear that story. Mary.
Thank you. And sorry, my connection has been pretty poor, but hopefully it will support one last comment. I'm going to borrow a really nice story from our Cluster 6 NCP, Cecile Decline. She has shared that someone she worked with years ago when she was living in Europe wrote her a Christmas card last year. And when she replied and mentioned that New Zealand was now associated to Horizon Europe, and that she'd been appointed as an NCP. And her friend, also a researcher, wasn't aware of the association. But from that exchange, that person-to-person exchange, came an introduction to a New Zealand research group, and then from that, a successful Horizon Europe proposal. And I really like that story because it illustrates the personal relationships and partnerships that underpin success, not just of the individual projects, but of the broader Pillar 2 mission to solve big global challenges can only be done together. And that together is people, one-on-one, and many.
Thanks for that, Mary, and that's very timely. Christmas is coming. Dust off your Christmas cards. Aslin.
Thank you. I'm actually going to follow Eva's suit and just share more of the reflections. I mean, for those that were coming in as associate countries, we were known as Category D and colloquially known as D distant, given like the challenges and so on. And when President von der Leyen first offered association to our Prime Minister, he just yelled out, "We'll do it." But he didn't even understand fully what the program was. And then all of a sudden, the teams were then tasked to understand. And it's just to say that, I mean, conceptually, it's an amazing idea. But then when you get to the brass tacks of things, there's a lot to be done. And then what I just thought was quite interesting was then going through the negotiations where at the start, I mean, bless them, the folks from the Commission, they've always were working with others on the continent, and then to be able to fully adapt the proposed agreement to reflect what it would be for those outside of the continent. I mean, there's different rules and standards and so on and so forth. And Mary's predecessor, Isaac, really was, put through the ringer with all the challenges and so on. So that was quite interesting. So I found I was playing more the role of interpreter between the Commission and our Canadian folks, so that they actually understood who's saying what and how to get things done. But then when it was all pulled together, then it was it was amazing. Soon after the announcement of conclusion of substantive negotiations, I did a webinar just to now introduce Horizon Europe to the rest of the network. And within 3 days, we had to close registration because we had over 1,100 people trying to get on it. So the interest is there, and we just want to keep on with the momentum.
Thank you. Very inspiring. Maybe last question on my side. I mean, based on your country's experience, one thought or recommendation or piece of advice that you may share at this stage. Maybe Aslin, you could, since you had the floor.
Sure. I'd focus on leaning on the resources available, and what I'm happy to do after this event is share what I created, like a support document. And literally the key information is on 2 pages of a 4-page document. And basically it's the A to Z of how to get into it. Because for those that have never tried to go through a project call, it seems very daunting. So I broke it down to like, how do you actually register? How do you promote yourself? How do you search for calls? So on and so forth. Then the other thing I would do is just lean on those who've already had the experience. Sometimes my Canadian clients come to me and they're quite overwhelmed and they're thinking they have to do everything. And I go, no, you just have to bring your ideas to the table and lean on the different partners so that they can bring their expertise. If even if that includes like project management and or coordination. What people may or may not know is that typically for an average call, you could have like 8 to 12 partners. So lean on those that you choose. And if you don't know how to find the partners, there are different networking profiles. And I see in the Q&A there's some questions, so I'll leave it for that. But just go after these types of events so that you can find a potential partner. And what I'll say lastly is that you may already have a partner and you're just not aware. So for the contacts that you already have, that you could just maybe guess that they've pursued Horizon Europe project calls in the past, just to approach them and say, well, I'm interested in working together for these upcoming calls that will be published in April of 2025, and then go from there. So use the resources that are available to you and reach out to the people you already know. Thank you.
Thanks, and indeed, resources leaning on experience is something that we hear is definitely very, very helpful. Aslin, is there anything you can share with the audience? That's fantastic. Eva?
Two or potentially three things for me just to add to excellent points that Aslin made as well. So first of all, I would say making a plan on how you really want to embrace Horizon and the opportunities. So sort of knowing where you want to focus, understanding how you will promote the program, where you want to promote it and to whom. I think that's really important, just kind of understanding how to build on your domestic R&D activity, how to build on your domestic R&D funding, how to create opportunities for people to kind of leverage what they're already doing. I think that's really important to sort of help them see how Horizon fits with sort of everything else that they're doing. The second bit is quite possibly the most difficult one. That's understanding the community and the user journey. That's tricky because essentially you've got a range of, and in any country you will have a range of organizations. We kind of broadly divide them into three groups. So those who are continuously working within Horizon and have been engaged in framework programs. So a lot of legacy knowledge and experience that you can use and sort of help others in terms of using that. Those who kind of broadly know about Horizon but have never really tried, the sort of the user journey for them will be very different, and they will have very different needs as well. So you need to think about how you can encourage them, communicate with them, simplify the language, as in you've mentioned the fact that it's complex, but it's worthwhile. So kind of the sooner you get into that, the better. But it is quite a journey. And then those who don't know Horizon, and believe it or not, in the UK, we do have groups that are not aware of the program. And there's much work to be done in terms of explaining that to people, explaining the benefits, and then taking them on that journey of sort of understanding how they could get involved. Every group will have a very different sort of views on what help they need, how you need to communicate with them. And that leads me to the third point, which is prioritizing, because you can't do it all at the same time. So you will have to prioritize and kind of make a plan of how you want to continue going forward. But we know from experience, and we know from some of the European studies that have been done in the past, that huge majority, more than 3/4 of EU applicants, continue to apply over and over again. So once you get into the program and you apply and you're successful, the chances are you will be back for that. So it's definitely a worthwhile program to get involved in.
Thanks, Eva. All very good points. Mary?
Yeah, really echo the excellent points that Eva and Aslin have made. And I would just add, New Zealand should be looking to use our smallness to our advantage, I guess, our 2 degrees of separation, as we call it. So not only will you probably have European partners or contacts that are already in Horizon and whose knowledge you can draw on for successful participation. But you will also have New Zealand partners that have some experience or whose cousin's brother led a successful Horizon project out of one of the EU member states, and just really encourage people to be really promoting the fact that they want to get involved in Horizon Europe to everyone that they come across, so to really open those doors for the collaborations to form.
Indeed, yes. Make your intentions known. Thanks a lot for all of that. I think now we would have some time for Q&A, which is great because we have quite a number of questions. And here in New Zealand, we've gone through recently a roadshow to basically bring Horizon Europe to researchers, to the various research innovation communities. And one question that came up very regularly, and I see it now also reflected in the Q&A, is a question about where actually to find matchmaking opportunities. Are there thematic sessions that are organized? Likewise, I mean, are there any specific resources that are available in your respective countries? Eva, maybe?
Yes, I'm happy to come in, Diane. So I think it's worth starting from the point that all national contact points of member states and associated countries are part of coordination projects. So those coordination projects, essentially, what they do is they provide opportunities for national contact points to create networking brokerage events and opportunities for their respective communities. So the best point of entry would always be to contact your national contact point and start from that conversation. Never ever apply not contacting an NCP. I would say that would be my top advice generally. The European Commission also organizes info days. In the past, they used to be very much sort of physical presence. I appreciate that for Canada or New Zealand, it might be quite expensive to travel to an info day, but I think they're increasingly virtual as well. And there's always a sort of an attempt to create an opportunity for networking between organizations, even virtually. Each one of the clusters as well, the clusters under Pillar 2 in particular, will have a networking and brokerage database, essentially. So our own Horizon Hub website in the UK has got links to those. So essentially what you then end up with is a networking sort of tool or networking place for everybody interested in health, for example, or networking tool for everybody interested in bioeconomy. So there are sources of sort of information. We try not to duplicate it at the country level because, you could easily kind of start creating a competitive tool, but without the sort of the international aspect. So we try not to do that purposefully, but plenty of opportunities. Our own UK website, which is, if you Google Horizon Hub, Innovate UK, will give you plenty of information on the networking aspect as well. We have done in the past and will be doing going forward as well, specific sort of drop-in sessions for international community to talk to them about how to engage with UK applicants or potential applicants. So plenty of opportunities. But I would say start with your national contact point.
That was very useful, and thanks indeed for flagging the info days. I would also flag the Cordis website. You have to learn how to navigate it, but there's a lot of information in there. Aslin or Mary, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'll just reinforce the NCP, the National Contact Point, which is something I absolutely should have mentioned in my last comment. Very important to get in touch with them.
Yeah, and on my support document, I have the links for the different clusters that actually would then have some of the portals, like the B2B portals. I also have a section where it there's a link to state where you get to put your pitch. But maybe just as a general point, because I'm in continuous contact with the Canadian network, when we talked about Horizon Europe, they keep saying that the interest is there, but they only see their network actually taking action, or more substantively taking action, when there's a specific request that comes to Canada, and I could only speak for the Canadian experience right now, when a European partner is looking for a Canadian innovator to collaborate on a search and call. And then, so I've received requests from France and Spain for these kinds of things. And then every time I share that specific lead, then everybody jumps on board. So it's not like the traditional partnering event type scenario. But all this to say is that for anyone online, if there's a specific ask that you want to include a Canadian partner, I suggest you reach out to the Trade Commissioner that would be at, I think, at our 2 missions in New Zealand, and you could get their contact details from tradecommissioner.gc.ca, and then make those connections. But bottom line, if you already know that there's something, a niche thing that you want to go after, then start reaching out to the people you know, or start reaching out to the NCPs or the European partners that you already have, and then see who else could come on board. And what I'll leave it off with is best to focus on your niche, what's your unique selling point, rather than just taking a step back and saying, well, I could do a lot. Don't do a lot. Just start with one thing, make it tangible and manageable, and then see where things go from there.
Thank you for that. And then we have a question, an interesting one, because of course Horizon Europe Pillar 2 is very much focused about global challenges that affect us all, and improving also EU industrial competitiveness. What about those opportunities to collaborate in Horizon Europe projects that are actually would actually help to overcome local challenges? Have you examples of that in the UK, in Canada, or in New Zealand?
I could just simply say that for the most part, it's shared priorities. And if a Canadian is joining on a call, it's because it's of interest to them as well. And then it would reflect what the nation would want. So generally, you go after the things that align with your own interests and priorities. That's the oversimplified response.
We're going to have a really cool and tangible example of that in the later presentation of the Minority Report project around hazards and resilience modelling. So I won't spoil that, but I just that just is a tangible example of what Aslan said. Is that's where you get success, is when those things align.
And again, I would just echo Aslin's point in terms of it tends to be shared challenges, to be honest. Perhaps the scale is different, and the way you contribute to a project, might depend on sort of your perspective and your own domestic experience in terms of particular aspect of that challenge. But what we find is people genuinely working on things that are relevant, research that is relevant to their own organization and where they're based.
Thank you, and indeed a number of local experience that resonate with global challenges. Now there's a question on interesting one, EU jargon, and that's also something that is there on Horizon Europe, and sometimes we hear some comments about things being a little bit difficult to understand, to navigate. How did you bring your stakeholders up to grasp with the EU, what is considered to be EU jargon?
I think, I mean, the EU jargon is a very broad term. It can be used for a lot of different things. But I think the key thing is to understand what the EU is trying to achieve. And Again,
That's
I would say we have our Canadian NCPs, but they're also relatively new on the scene, and so the Commission has encouraged this, which basically, let's say you're going to be one of your key partners is going to be from the UK, then to reach out to the UK NCP, and so basically lean on the people who are already familiar with the jargon and speak that way, and then they can walk you through it. So no need to reinvent the wheel. Just lean on who's already there and who's already familiar.
I don't have
And
much
I
to
would-
add to that, to be honest, Diane. That is what it is, as Aslin mentions, just kind of leaning on people that have got experience. It is a sort of an evolution of some of the phrases and within the jargon, but yeah, it's a particular way. And once you get into that sort of habit of working with others, it comes naturally. Yeah, I think it's just once you take the dive into collaboration, it becomes part of how you communicate as well.
And I would actually use that opportunity for a big shout out to the national contact points here in New Zealand, because they are doing an amazing job. So we have Stephen with us tonight, and several of them have attended several sessions in this webinar. So I've seen them in action. They're great. So indeed, rely on the NCPs. Also, an important question. I mean, we of course talk a lot about the success stories, but the program is pretty competitive. So a number of researchers are unsuccessful. What would be your message around those unsuccessful applications?
I can come back on that. Sorry, Mary, go ahead.
I'll just make a very quick comment that while the proposal itself might not be successful, all of them are underpinned by partnerships that can lead to other things. So I wouldn't see investment in creating a proposal doesn't end with submitting it, and neither do necessarily the benefits of the conversations that go into preparing that proposal don't end if the proposal isn't successful. It's still a very, very worthwhile process, and our association gives us a seat at the table for those conversations. So there are some benefits still to be had.
Yeah. And if I could add again, NCP. I'll double check, but I believe in my support document, I've even have links on like best practices for writing a successful call that the Commission has hosted, so on and so forth. The Commission themselves, I think they even have a YouTube channel on anything and everything Horizon Europe. And I selected just a few key links if you want to do the homework on that. Lastly, another thing that the Commission has proposed to the Canadians is that basically they're encouraging many of our innovators to also sign on as an expert/evaluator, because all these project calls go through a peer review process. And if someone wants to even just be one of the experts to review, well, then at one point, or fur et à mesure, like when you start reading these calls, then you also get to see, okay, this is what they really mean, this is what they want. But to go full circle, the Commission themselves have excellent resources. So again, it's just knowing where to look. And I'm doing my best. Anything I can do to help. I find something interesting, I add it to my list, and I still, I just keep it to 4 pages. So hopefully it's not too overwhelming.
I think from my side, the very practical comment would be, or response would be, have a look at the feedback at the evaluation summary report you receive, just to understand what the what the sort of points of weakness were for the proposal, and try and analyze it together with the rest of the consortium from a point of view of sort of decision whether you would want to reapply or not. Completely agree with Asnin's point on a national contact point. I would suggest to talk through the sort of next steps with them as well. And to Mary's point as well, it's never a wasted effort, because when you've gone through so much work, chances are there's probably sort of offshoots of other opportunities that will be created through that consortium, through that collaboration. So absolutely worth exploring sort of next steps and not giving up just at the first hurdle.
All very excellent points, and indeed one recurring message that we get is very much about the long-term value of engagement. So keep engaging, keep trying, keep learning, so to say, and keep connecting. Many thanks. We've had a very inspiring conversation. So I'd like to thank you all three very much. I was very honored to moderate a women panel and to hear from your experience the stories that you've shared, very concrete illustrations of what international collaboration based on common values and interests mean, and how they benefit our societies and our communities. With this, I know we are going to hear a lot more during this session, and for that, Nishant, I hand back to you.
Thank you very much, Diane, and thank you also to our panelists who have been really incredible. So it's a pleasure to have you with us, Mary, Aslin, and Eva. I think it really gave a snapshot of those who are in different parts, how the Horizon Europe is a global family, and how you are all tackling the association of third countries to Horizon Europe. So thank you very much for doing that very, very well. Of course, we are limited with time, so we had to wrap up the panel, because now we are moving into a section where we have a feature called New Zealand Horizon Europe Success Story. And I think that indeed is something that we're really proud of, because we have a lot of work that has been put into this, not just at the negotiation table, but also at the researchers table, who have been very successful in putting forward proposals that have eventually become successful. I think we'll swiftly move to one of the first presentations on this, which is on status of New Zealand's Horizon Europe participation. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Nehana Waitai, who is the policy advisor for International Science Partnerships team at the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. Nehana, I think I'll pass the privilege to you now.
Kia ora, Nishant. Tēnā koe. Amihi tuatahi ki te mana, ki ngā mana whenua o tēnei rohe ko Taranaki whānui te Aotearoa me ngā toa rangatira. Ngā mihi tuarua kia koe, Nishant. Thank you for hosting us tonight through EURAXESS and giving us this platform to connect with New Zealand researchers. And ngā mihi tuatoru ki oku kaimahi, oku hoa, my colleagues from all across the world have joined us tonight and spoken phenomenally about the opportunities that Horizon Europe provides to New Zealand as well, from both New Zealand, UK, Canada, and Europe, but also to all of you who are tuning in, especially if you're like me here in New Zealand at 9:15 on a Thursday evening. That just shows how exciting this is for all of us. Tēnā koutou katoa, thank you for being here this evening. Konei hana wai te tuku ingoa, he kai tātere kaupapa here hau ki hikina whakatūtiki, mō tēnei kaupapa whakahirehira no Taharangi Europi me ngā honanga pūtaia o te ao. My name is Nehana Waitai. I'm a policy advisor in international science policy at New Zealand's Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. I've been involved in New Zealand's Horizon Europe Association since late 2022. So it's been a fun journey since then. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight to share a brief overview of New Zealand's involvement in Horizon Europe. And after my short presentation, I'll pass over to Cluster 3 NCP, Professor Stephen McDonnell, to run through NCP structure, and then to Dr. Peter Thompson, who will share his experiences as one of New Zealand's successful Horizon Europe recipients. First, though, I'll I'll give a quick overview of national contact point structure. I've dropped a link in the Q&A that provides details on the MBIE website, so you can look at it yourself in your own time. But these are friendly, approachable, and very intelligent faces behind our NCP team. We have 6 NCPs for each, one for each cluster, as well as specific NCP to support Māori engagement in the program. We, of course, have government-based NCPs, myself, Mary, and Cecile, who can help you from a government perspective. And Mary, of course, is based in New Zealand right now, but is soon to go over to Brussels, so will play a critical role on the ground facilitating connections between New Zealand and European institutions. This slide here gives a brief overview of association journey to date. As Mary said, we're very proud to be the first country outside of the EU's immediate neighbourhood to associate to Horizon Europe in mid-2023. And being an associated country means that for New Zealand organisations, you can lead and participate in nearly all Pillar 2 projects. It also means that we can contribute to the minimum criteria for forming a consortium, which I'm sure Nishant has discussed at length throughout this European Research Day week. So this is just another slide on Horizon Europe. I'm sure you've seen this all throughout the week. Horizon Europe is the 9th and largest iteration to date of the EU's framework programme for research and innovation, with a budget of around 97 billion euros, or about 176 billion New Zealand dollars, which is crazy huge. New Zealand is associated to Pillar 2, which is focused on collaborative research aimed at tackling global challenges and delivering scientific impact. So Pillar 2 is this one in the middle here. This whole slide represents Horizon Europe as the whole program. There are 2 things I want to emphasize here. So Pillar 2 programs fund activities from fundamental blue skies research all the way through to commercialization of technology. So it covers the whole TRL pipeline. And participation in projects open to a wide range of stakeholders, including research institutions, businesses, NGOs, and public authorities. So if you're from any institution with research capacity, you're very likely to place to contribute in Horizon Europe Pillar 2. There are opportunities in the other pillars besides Pillar 2, but we are not associated to those, so the funding mechanisms can vary. Cecile Richardot, who's based in Brussels, from the New Zealand government, can provide some advice in Pillar 1. And of course, the NCPs are broadly familiar with the funding mechanisms under there as well. And of course, Nishant is very well versed on the opportunities that are available. Pillar 2 is divided into these 6 thematic clusters, which are based around key priority areas determined by the EU, but of course also for New Zealand, which is why we've associated. Each of the clusters publishes its own work program and has its own dedicated budget, which is outlined at the bottom of this slide in terms of millions of euros. And within each of the clusters, the work programs are broken down into these destinations, and calls are then determined by individual topic under those destinations. You will see that the program is very broad and there are a lot of opportunities to get involved. There is very likely a place for you in your niche to contribute somewhere within here. Don't isolate yourself in just one cluster, don't silo yourself. You can very likely have a place to play and contribute across clusters if you wish. I'll also briefly mention 2 specific mechanisms within Pillar 2 that you may want to get involved in. The first one is EU missions. These are part of Pillar 2 and similar to the clusters, but they publish calls in the same way. But the key difference here is that the missions set very specific targets that they aim to reach by 2030. And the other mechanism is European partnerships. Don't be scared by all these words here. Partnerships make up a big part of the budget. They are long-term initiatives between the European Commission and public or private partners, and they produce their own joint programs of research and innovation activities as well. Our NCPs can help you work through this if you wish. Partnerships are established across all 3 pillars, but most of them, 38 out of 49, sit within Pillar 2, and so are available for New Zealand participation via our association. There are different types of partnerships, and the funding arrangements can vary. If you are interested, take a look at the MBIE website and contact your NCPs as well. We also have a web page on the MBIE website that covers everything about Horizon Europe. There's a lot of good information here, which I encourage you to explore in your own time. This includes information about eligibility criteria and, of course, our domestic top-up scheme as well. So the New Zealand government, MBIE, provides a top-up fund to successful recipients of Horizon Europe funding. The details, including registration and timelines, are on there. The link is also at the bottom, and I'll ask Nishant to send these around to everyone who's registered, so you can take a look there as well. So this map is quite fascinating. So you might think Horizon Europe is only for the EU and associated countries. The EU, of course, is there in blue. Associated countries are in green, including us all the way at the bottom right corner, very far away from the rest of the world. But I want to draw your attention to this very obvious orange covering the screen as well. So these are the low to middle income countries as defined by World Bank data. These countries are automatically eligible for funding through Horizon Europe as well, and so can be included in your consortia, into your bids rather. It's quite hard to see on this map, but most of the Pacific Island states are also included on this list in this orange category. And given our geographic closeness to the Pacific, I think there's an important place for New Zealand to be a regional connector in this as well. We, as New Zealand government, we encourage and welcome more countries joining Horizon Europe as associate countries. This creates more opportunities for collaboration between excellent care researchers and their global counterparts. I hope this map highlights that this is truly a global program, and it offers really good opportunities in that regard. So New Zealand, as Mary's mentioned, we're quite proud of our success and participation so far. We have seen around 90 partners involved in around 80 Horizon Europe consortia, with quite a few of those consortia with multiple New Zealand partners in all types of entities. We've now seen successful projects in almost all clusters, so clusters 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, 19 successful projects with 14 unique New Zealand organisations all across the country. It's not just the big universities, we also have, I'm aware of some companies in Nelson that have got them, so it truly is all across the Motu. Our success rate is sitting at around 20%, which compares favourably to the program average, and the success rate in some of our major domestic research funds as well. Now, this is a really exciting thing for me. So New Zealand research organisations have received around 9.5 million New Zealand dollars, or 5.24 million euros from Horizon Europe. However, the total funding allocated to those consortia that they are involved with exceeds 210.6 million New Zealand dollars, or 116.1 million euros. This shows that for a small domestic investment, we can really leverage a massive international investment in excellent science through the opportunities that Horizon Europe offers to us. Our successful projects include over 300 international partner organizations across 41 countries, again, just emphasizing how truly global this project is. And this graph here are made using the publicly available data through this link at the bottom, highlights the number of bids that are successful across the clusters and the budget allocated to those successful bids in euros down the bottom there. This graph was pulled from our roadshow in October 2024, which I'm sure many of you attended. This also highlights the number of unsuccessful bids that have had decisions made at the time. again, demonstrating just how much enthusiasm and interest there is from New Zealand researchers, how active we are in this project. As Mary said, there is also value to gain from unsuccessful bids, new partnerships, new understandings of Horizon Europe as well. So if you are one of those, or if you apply and are not successful the first time round, don't be discouraged. There is always something to be gained from having a crack and doing your best. And again, yes, it opens future opportunities for collaboration potentially as well through other mechanisms besides Horizon Europe as well. So just make sure to consider that your bid holistically across other domestic funds in New Zealand, but also international opportunities as well. The partners that you use there or that you connect with there will likely have further opportunities they can identify for you. This project here was again pulled from that database I mentioned a few slides ago. This is a list of our all of our successful projects that are publicly available. I won't go through the details, but it highlights the name, the subject area, and the budget allocated. Again, just emphasizing how massive these consortia are compared to the funding is through this consortia compared to our domestic funds. Millions of euros, many more millions New Zealand dollars, including this one on the bottom right, or EURAXESS, which is 56 million euros, about 110 million New Zealand dollars. I just want to highlight this one here, Minority Report, which Dr. Peter Thompson is going to discuss in a few minutes. Many of these calls are in areas of mutual strategic interest to both EU and New Zealand, including in global health, biosecurity, and disaster and climate resilience. We publish a list of successful projects on our website with the stories behind them, and I encourage you to take a look at that as well. The link to that is below. On that note, I'm here to take any questions. I think Nishant's going to.
Thank you very much, Nehana. I think I have a very apparent question which you did not include in your presentation, which is the top-up funding that amazes everybody that New Zealand has managed to put for your researchers. Can you give us a little bit of insights into this?
Sure. So we, as part of our association policy, we implemented a domestic top-up fund as part of our budget bid in recognition of the fact that the way that research is funded in the EU is different to how it is here in New Zealand. So as part of the successful grant from the EU, you get 100% of direct costs funded for your project, plus a 25% on top of that for overheads. The domestic top fund that we have raises that top up, the overheads rather, to the full 100%. So that gives an extra boost on top of your EU grant. We require that you register with us when you submit your bid to the European Commission, just so that we can keep track of our finances, but otherwise it's all based on how your Horizon Europe assessment goes. If you're successful there, we automatically give out the funding to you. There are some specific details around how much funding is allocated to New Zealand partners in the consortia. There's a limit of about, I want to say 1 million either euros or New Zealand dollars, don't know the exact figure right now, but all the details are on our website as well. So make sure to check that out. And if you have any questions about it specifically that aren't on the website, reach out to either myself, Mary, or your NCPs as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nehana. I think without speaking over the top of this presentation would not have been complete, which is really something that is appreciated by a lot of New Zealand researchers with regards to the unique circumstances in which the New Zealand ecosystem has been operating in the past. So thank you very much for this.